This is indieJourno.com. I'm Paul Matadine. Have you been paying attention to President Trump's push to change NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement? I recently talked to Law360's Alex Lawson about this topic. We talked about first where things stand.
The United States informed the Congress in the middle of May that it wanted to restart those talks, and that kicked off a 90-day consultation period during which the administration is going to talk with businesses, trade associations, unions about how they want to attack the new set of negotiations.
I also wanted to take the conversation big picture to get President Trump's overall stance on NAFTA.
He sort of was painting NAFTA as a job killer and said it had to be completely rebuilt, even torn down in some statements that he made. And now the administration is kind of walking this tightrope because he had very harsh words for NAFTA. He said it was a total disaster on numerous campaign stops.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. And now the administration is sort of, you can already see they're already kind of starting to walk back a little bit, which is to say the United States Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and others said, NAFTA has a good sort of system in place, but it was enacted in 1993. I don't need to tell you or any of our...
Things have changed.
Yeah, I don't need to tell you about the different sort of the ways that people do business and the way that we consume goods and services has changed. And so now they're pivoting a little bit from a total rebuild of NAFTA to something of a facelift, a modernization.
And then there's timing. How soon could we see a major change?
It's very easy to talk in broad strokes about trade agreements, but it is generally a slog. The administration says they want to move this quickly, but it will be a while. And they're still even getting their negotiating positions in order. But one thing that I can say, just from things that they've said and things I've reported on at Law360, if you'll pardon me, there's a little noise outside my window. One thing that President Trump has said he wants to do is to tighten up the rules governing the manufacture of cars. The auto sector obviously has been hit hard both by trade and other market forces. And to not get too into the weeds on this, there are rules in place in the current NAFTA that say a certain sort of amount of a car has to be made within the NAFTA countries in order to get a tariff benefit, in order to sort of receive a trade preference. President Trump wants to raise that threshold. Right now that threshold is 62%, which means that 38% of a car can be made from all around the world. You can source cheap parts from China and elsewhere. He wants to raise that up. I've heard figures something like 70 or 80%. And while that's kind of granular, what it means is that it could mean that more car production comes back to the United States, and you want to build cars from parts that come entirely within the United States, or at least in the NAFTA region. The other side of that coin, though, as you already alluded to, is that parts here are more expensive, and that means that while the auto sector might gain some new jobs, the consumer writ large is probably going to see a higher cost for cars when it comes time to buy them because it was more expensive to make them.
Listen to what Alex told me about if we could see prices go up if NAFTA changes.
I mean, I think general rules of economics tell us that could definitely be the case. As we already said, there are other factors that could mitigate such a price bump. But if you get less competition in a marketplace, costs generally go up. Now, the plus side is, people in certain sectors would have a job and they can afford to pay maybe a little more for things than they can now. But this is sort of the orthodoxy that comes with trade debates, where it's like, are we a nation of consumers or are we a nation of employees? And the truth is we're both at all times. And it's a delicate balance you have to strike.
I also asked him to give us a timeline about when we could see things actually change.
About a month before the mid-August deadline, I believe it's August 16th, I may be a day or two off there, but a month before that happens, so in mid-July, the administration is supposed to begin circulating its actual negotiating positions. And that's where it'll say, this is what we want to have in a new NAFTA. And while that will be available on various government websites, and it will be sort of incumbent upon the media to report that in a responsible way, but that's sort of when people can start to sort of perk their ears up about okay, what are the things that we're actually going to have to look for here? Is it going to be easier to make cars here? Are we going to impose tougher labor and environmental laws on our trading partners, specifically Mexico? Is there going to be sort of more open government procurement bidding? Things like that can all sort of have these downstream touches. So the middle of July is when you're really going to want to start to pay attention to the sort of firm, concrete trade proposals that are coming out of the White House.
Alex has agreed to stay in touch with us to keep us informed about all things NAFTA. Keep it right here on IndieJourno.